Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Tom's Serenity Acres. My name is Ozella Toms, and I want to say thank you for clicking on this video. Now, for those of you who have been following our journey, I want to say my bad. I know I haven't posted a video in like 13 days, but it's been a lot going on, and I will be able to update you about those things very soon. But do know that I wanted to post videos, but it's just been just a lot going on. Today I left work. I went to the grocery store and picked up my grandson, came home, and we ate dinner. And I said, I have to shoot a video. I just have to do it. And so Braylon is in bed, and I think Mike is watching TV. So I said, let me go on and shoot a video. So you have followed our journey from North Carolina to Mississippi to Alabama. Today, I want to talk about our experiences looking at property in South Carolina. Now, we visited South Carolina more than one time. This is the first state we actually visited multiple times, and I'll tell you about those experiences. Prior to going to South Carolina the first time, I actually called a realtor, looked for a realtor in the area where we were interested in looking. And I found a realtor and I said, hey, my husband and I are looking for some property, and we're interested in, coming there to look at some property. The lady said, well, she's really nice, but she said, I have a person who also works at our realtor company, and she really specializes in those who are moving from out of state. And she said, I'd rather you work with her because, it's really her specialty. I'm like, okay, great. And so we're like, finally, a realtor who understands, we're coming from out of state, and, we're just coming to look at property. We're not coming to hang out and vacation and have a good time. We're all about business. And so I'm like, okay, this might be great to have someone who understands those coming from out of town looking at property. So we talked to the lady after we got her number. I called the lady, we talked to her. She seemed really nice as well. And she assured us that she would be able to show us property when we come in town. She would line things up for us. And we sent her several properties we were interested in the area. One in particular, Mike was very interested in because it had water on the property. It was like a lake, creek type situation. And as you know, he really wants like a pond. And that was one of the reasons why we were really interested in the Mississippi property that we did not end up, purchasing. So we get in town, and the realtor said, well, I'll meet y'all at the first property. And we were meeting at the property that Mike was very interested in, the one with the water. It was near like a speedway, like a racetrack situation. So pretty interesting area. And so we met her there, and I guess I need to back up a little bit. So when we get to the airport, I think we flew into Florence, South Carolina. When we get to the airport, we had reserved a mid-size rental, but they didn't have any. And so the gentleman said, we're going to give you a free upgrade to, you can get a Cadillac Escalade. So we're like, great. So we're in this huge Escalade, really nice vehicle. I had to tell you that. It's a reason why. So we get to the, we're heading towards the property where we're going to meet the realtor, the first property. And it's like really rough terrain, like woody, just a lot of like mud. I guess it had rained. So it was just really like muddy and just not the best to drive through, but we're fine because we're in an Escalade. So we're able to drive through it. And so we're like, wow, this looks really like it was really wet. And we had already had some experiences looking at property that was in a flood zone. And so we're looking at this property like, this property is like flooded. And the realtor calls us and she's like, I'm almost there. So we get there before her. And she also told us prior to us coming to South Carolina that she would go visit the properties before we get there, because we had shared some of our concerns with past realtors with her. So she's like, I'll go check out the property before you get here, so I'll know for sure how to get access to the property. I know if it's anything anything wrong with the property or anything we need to be alarmed about or take care of prior to y'all getting there. So she gets there and she's in this small car. I can't remember what kind of car it was, but she's in this small car and she gets stuck because again it's very muddy. It's like a kind of swampy type. We can see on both ends of the road, and then the road is just really muddy. And she gets stuck. She gets stuck and cannot get out. And so Mike gets out. He tries to help her. He's pushing her car and just trying to, get her out the mud. Can't get her unstuck. So she makes a call. She has to end up calling a tow truck. And so we're sitting there for maybe 30, 45 minutes waiting for her tow truck to arrive. And so she said, well, y'all can just go look at the other properties. So she given us, printouts of all the properties we were going to look at that day. And she had printouts of the properties we were going to look at the next day. And so she gave us all the printouts, and she was like, I need to get my car unstuck and try to, go get my other vehicle. I have another vehicle at home. So I'm going to get to my home and I'll meet y'all at, the next property. And so when we left there, the tow truck was like, riding past us. We're like, okay, the tow truck is there. And, so we head to the next property on the list, and, we're looking around, and she finally calls and says, I'm just not going to make it. She's like, I'm sorry, please don't be upset. I really want to be your realtor. And I was like, well, we're looking at this property here, and we'll just, look at the others and go from there. And so she's like, well, I'll call you. We can get together tomorrow. And we're still waiting on that call right now. She never called us ever and never called us back. And we kind of looked at a couple other things that, we had saw online, but we didn't have a formal realtor taking us to look at any of these properties. We did call some realtors about some properties we saw while we were there, but just didn't really see anything. Well, one thing I kind of liked, but Michael really didn't like it. So that was our first visit to South Carolina. And we got back home, again, disappointed. She said that she was going to check out the properties before we got here. And it was obvious she didn't, because she would have known that the first property we went to was swampy and floody. And, she probably was going to get stuck there. She told us literally she was going 2 days before, and I don't think she did. So we get back from South Carolina, and, Mike still was like, well, I really like the area. And so he was like, yeah, I'm just going to look at some more properties, see if I can find, some other things we're interested in. And so he ended up looking at more property and connecting with a realtor, and found a couple of things that, he was really interested in. And so he was like, I'm going back to South Carolina next week. I'm just going to go by myself and just see if I can look at a few things with this new realtor. So him and a realtor, set the dates, and Mike goes back to South Carolina and met with his realtor. And he was in South Carolina maybe, I think he was there maybe 2 or 3 days. I can't remember now. So in South Carolina, he's sending me several videos of properties that he's seen. Really excited. The gentleman took him to several properties, and so he was like, this might, be promising. I've seen several things I really, really like. And so he came back home, and, he really kept talking about one particular piece of land that he really liked. He thought it would be really good for us. And I said, well, if you really like it, let's just make an offer on it, And he said, well, I don't want to do that because you haven't seen the property. I want you to be happy with this as well. We're spending our money on this property, and I want you to be happy and, be fine with it as well. But my thing was, most of the things we looked at, Mike really just didn't like. So I'm like, if you found something you like, it's probably fine. But he said, no, you need to go look at this property. And so maybe 2 weeks later, we made a second trip. This was the third trip for Michael, second trip for me to South Carolina. So we went back to South Carolina to look at, this property. He was just very, very interested in. He sent me videos and pictures, and I thought it was fine. And so get to South Carolina, and Michael took me to the property, and I was like, yeah, this is great. It was really nice. 6.79 acres, so almost 7 acres. It was pretty clear land, some trees, but towards the back of the property, so no trees really in the middle of the property. So about we didn't have that issue of having to clear a lot of trees. There were some trees, but again, toward the back of the property, but nothing we really had to clear. Um, far as putting a home on the property or anything like that, it was pretty clear land. And so I'm like, great. And so this land was part of 82 acres that a gentleman was selling. It was family farmland, and so he was selling. He chopped it up in 6 or 7 acres, 12-acre like lots, and that's how he was selling it. So again, looked at the property. We looked around, visited the school that our grandson would go to if we were to live in the area. So we went to the elementary school there, and thought it was nice, and met with teachers and had a tour and looked around the community. We ate at several places and just really trying to get a feel for the community. The thing is, wasn't many people in the area where the property was. It was one person who had purchased 2 lots next to it, and they had some horses and I think a mobile home on the property at the time, but just no one really living in the area. So we really couldn't talk to any neighbors, but I think we did go to the Dollar General and talk to some people at the Dollar General, and which was really close to the property. We came back from South Carolina and was like, okay, this might be it. Let's think about making an offer. And we did. We offered, I believe it was $5,000 less than asking, and they came up a little bit. So I think we ended up getting it $2,000 less. Again, accepted offer $2,000 less than what they were asking for. And so we made an offer on the property. It was accepted. So we're like, okay, great. Now we've been here before, right? We were here in North Carolina, where we had an accepted offer on. Well, we had made an offer. It wasn't accepted, but we had an accepted offer on the property in Mississippi, and it didn't go through due to all those issues. And so we're like, just because we make an offer doesn't mean that we're gonna get it. We kind of learned that throughout this process, but the offer was accepted, and we made the offer contingent upon the land passing a perk test, because we know that it had been farmland, and the realtor was like, oh, the land is definitely gonna perk, but we can't take someone's word for it without knowing for sure, without getting that paper saying that we can have a septic system on the property without having like a very expensive one. That the perk test was, I don't know, positive for perky, I don't know, but at any rate, the seller agreed to pay for the perk test. The state of South Carolina, the people, like I think it's called DHEC, but like the environmental people were like 6-8 months behind in doing these perk tests. And so the seller paid an outside firm to come in and do that, and they did. And the land did perk. And so we knew we were able to have a septic system on the land. We were having issues with the water or the soil. Very excited. And a closing date was set. So we were set to have a closing date. And I believe in about 30 days or so, we did close on the South Carolina property. So very excited about that, and I just wanted to share that with you. And it has definitely been a whirlwind since we have closed on the property, and we're going to update you on everything that's happened since we have purchased the property in South Carolina. 6.79 acres. Just really excited about it, and excited about y'all finishing and continuing this journey with us. Well, we're not finished yet, but continuing the journey with us. So after this video, I will post a couple videos of the property in South Carolina that we made an offer on, that was accepted, and we did close on. So I will post a couple of videos of the property, and next time you will see me at Tom's Serenity Acres. All right, so continue to plant seeds of faith, hope, and love. May Yah bless you. Take care. neighbors, our property.